And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I am talking with Steve Wallace. Steve, brother, thank you for spending some time with me today.
Michael, thanks, man. This is gonna be fun.
It is going to be great. So Steve is also known as the sales nerd, and I love that. When I saw it, it just made me cackle and giggle, and I'm like, okay, this is my kind of guy. Steve is he helps you really understand and influence others as you think about sales, business development, things of that nature, because that's really the business we're all in, is influencing others in making great decisions. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. But Steve, as we get into that conversation and launch, tell me, man, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I won't give you the long Marvel
Okay.
Genesis story leading up to today,
Yeah, yeah.
but I will say I was not always in this position. Many of us can say that, right? I actually used to be a insurance producer,
Okay.
and that's how I got my start. I was bartending. A financial advisor who also wrote insurance tried to recruit me. By the time I was ready to be recruited, his company was no longer hiring. So
Yeah.
I started at a different company, but that I kind of give him credit for my start, for inspiring me to start. And for those of you who are new to hearing about insurance, you're basically running your own business. You know, you might be underneath somebody's umbrella, but you're running your own business. Even on tax paperwork,
Yeah.
you're a sole proprietor. And I wasn't aware of that, and that's okay. But where I'm going with this is, as a result, all the training is on you. Some agency offer better training than others. Mine wasn't great, and so I quickly identified that the agency I was at was not going to be a place I stayed. I needed more support, so I left one agency and went to the next, and then to the next, and so about 3 agencies in 5 years. And the insurance rules are pretty ethical. I'm an ethical guy. Probably shouldn't have to say that, but that's the truth, right? The rules say you're not supposed to resell your current customers the same thing just to get a commission. That's called churning. It's illegal. I didn't want to do that. If somebody wanted to work with me to buy more or buy a new product, that's a different story.
Right.
But I wasn't going to sell them the same thing. It's not in their best interest. So if I left one agency and went to the next and to the next, that means I had 3 books of businesses I had to build and existing customers that I had to let sit there and wait for them to reach out to me.
Yes.
Look at this story through the lens of business development. How did I start a new book of business again and again and again? It was through cold outreach. I quickly learned that I had to become a business development prospecting monster. I did because I had to, not because I wanted to. And fast forward 15 years, and I had fallen in love with the sales process, from
Yeah.
hunting for customers, servicing them. Closing deals are really fun, but the relationships that come with them too.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was a insurance customer of mine offered me a job in his C-suite to run sales for the company, and that's where I am today.
How
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah,
You talk about School of Hard Knocks, man. Doing what nobody wants to do. All that
yeah,
cold outreach and the numbers and the,
yep,
but you embraced it. You learned from it, and wow, lo and behold, you got discovered. Dare we say?
yeah.
And as we talk about, business development. I remember one of the first sales books I ever read years ago, 35 years ago, probably, Tommy Hopkins, How to Master the Art of Selling.
Oh, Tommy, yeah,
And he's got a picture in that book. It's got two guys. It's a cartoon, and they're like big bellies, right? And they got belly buttons. And this guy showed this to Tom after one of his conferences, and Tom's like, the guy's like, "This is the secret to sales." And Tom's like, "What is it?" He's like, "See 20 people belly to belly every day." And that's really what you're talking about.
that's
In
simple.
But you do it on scale.
Yeah,
Because sales at one level, business is a numbers game. It really is, right?
sure.
So, talk about business development and sales. What have you learned? How do you help your clients, the people you work with, kind of embrace this monster that most people hate? Sales. It's a nasty word. No, unpack that for us so we understand what it is.
Yeah, such a loaded question that I could take a couple of different directions. One is actually that's why our company exists, because people don't want to do this hard time consuming stuff, right? They
Mhm.
don't want the rejection. Interestingly enough, our tool is best in the hands of the people who do the stuff. So a core value of mine and our company is we solve a problem. So if you aren't doing the stuff that we automate, or we automate to solve a problem, but if you're not doing the stuff that we automate, then you're buying us for a different reason besides the problem that we're solving. So it's really, really interesting, this dynamic, this unique spot that we live in, right?
Yeah.
Convincing people to how necessary it is to do the work that we automate. Um, it's kind of a philosophical pivot here for you, Michael. But somebody I recently met named Tim Barry, he recently, and I'm going to butcher this, but he recently said, if you want to get past the icky feeling of sales, it's kind of what you've alluded to, you need to anchor your behavior and your actions to something that isn't outcome related. It's core value and personal belief related.
Yeah.
Right. And you need to stay anchored to that. So, for example, in order to get it, this helps. It doesn't solve the whole question, doesn't solve the whole problem, but it helps. It moves the needle in terms of mentality. I believe that what I do is life changing for the right people.
Yeah.
I believe that deep down, right? I don't think it's the right fit for everybody, but it's life changing for the right people. Why wouldn't I try to meet as many people as possible, as often as possible, as consistently as possible, for as long as possible, to put people in a position to change their life? Why wouldn't I do that?
Right.
Right.
I
And
love
when
it.
I focus on that, it's really, really easy to move past those days where I'm hesitant to do outreach or afraid of rejection or get the icky
Yeah.
feeling about sales. And I think if people anchored themselves to something that's core value related, something like what I said could be different for them, they'll move past that icky sales feeling and they'll
Right.
do the work that's necessary.
Right. Yeah. It's a higher purpose, really, at the end of
Totally.
the day. And it honestly, it solves a lot of the mental stuff. I think a lot of people get hung up on it because we get so inundated with sloppy salesmanship and bad messaging and because people aren't showing up like you with this mentality. Fair?
Agreed. But I will take this one step further and say, what about the salespeople who aren't trained well? Right? There's this
Yeah.
element of accountability that they should train themselves, and that's true. But what about those people who don't know what they don't know and haven't been given the training to fix it? Should they not be a
Yeah.
bad salesperson? I say go try. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? A broken clock is right twice a day.
Yep.
So a broken salesperson can still find clients. They might irritate more people, but they'll still find clients and they'll still make an impact.
Right.
Right?
And they're going to learn so much during the process of doing when they have the right heart behind it, which is kind of your anchoring thing.
Absolutely.
You got nothing to lose.
Yep.
Nothing to
Mic
lose.
drop.
Okay, thanks for listening to that. No,
Yeah, we're all
it's
done.
there's just so much more. The other thing that you talked about that I think plays into this that I'm pretty convinced, and I may be wrong, but I'm pretty convinced that most people who are in the sales role, they don't think about themselves as a thought leader. And what you just unpacked is I believe that what I have to offer is life changing for the right people. Okay, that's thought leadership for yourself and those you interact
Mm,
with. Talk about thought leadership. How does that play into business development, sales, and all of that?
yeah, absolutely. So I think in order to talk about modern thought leadership, business development, and sales, we have to compare it to what it used to be.
Hmm.
Think about Don Draper, Mad Men, right? And the sales tactics of
Yeah.
yesteryear, direct outreach, where you could cold call a homeowner and direct pitch stock to them and they would buy it. Like, it was wild, right? And the consumer was relatively, compared to today, uneducated, right?
Right.
I don't mean they were dumb by any means, but they didn't have the instant access to information they have now. Today's consumer is much more skeptical because they're more educated, and even if they don't know something on the phone, if you were to call them, they can get the answer they're looking for really quickly.
Yes.
It makes working with them way harder, and as a result, and this is the pivot to modern business development, as a result, sales has to adapt.
Yeah.
Thought leadership, content everywhere. Think Gary Vee, think Tony Robbins, think these people who put content everywhere. Why do they do it? Do they do it because they like to hear themselves talk? No, they do it because they know that the more ideas they put out there, even if it's unrelated to what they do, the more people will resonate with the words they say and will slowly become attracted to their business, right?
Yeah.
So while I'm making a cold call about Maverick app, I'm simultaneously talking about faith in a podcast, right?
Right.
What do the two have to do with each other? Who knows? Maybe never shall they meet, but one person from this channel over here might be attracted to that channel over there. And that
Right.
needs to happen. And it's not even omni outreach anymore. It's just everywhere all the time.
It totally is, yeah. And I love what you just said there, because you're on one thing doing, well, business. You're over here doing kind of personal stuff, right?
Right.
And one of my marketing philosophies is people buy who you are more than what you do.
Right.
When you can combine and show up as an authentic human being, and people get to know you, to go, oh, I kind of like him. Oh, he's a husband. He's a father. I got kids. Oh,
Right.
all of that helps your sales because they're emotionally connected to you. But I find so many people in business go, yep, no, that's personal. We don't talk about personal. Or just,
Yeah.
it's all one.
Right. And it wasn't before. And I understand why people have hesitation about this because they weren't used to it. Well, adapt or die, baby. This is the new normal. You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? Do you want to close shop or do you want to stay open?
It's yeah, it's crazy. So let's talk about how you work with business owners and salespeople and different people to help them with, I guess, I hate the word, the right mindset, but that's got to be part of it. And then you've got kind of a process. Unpack that a little bit for us.
Sometimes, I mean, I think you have to think about different personality types here, right? Some personality types will require data to prove why they should change their behavior, right? So
Yeah.
we're talking about changing a mentality. Say the before mentality is I don't want to do this prospecting, and the after is I will do this prospecting.
Yeah.
One personality type will ask for social proof, evidence that it works, right? Which is wild to me because sales has been around for a long time. There's a reason why it's a position. It's because people succeed in it, right? But some people will require social proof, so you have to give them that. You have to meet them where they are, not where what you want. You have to give them social proof.
Right.
Other people need to be made to feel the difference. What's the before and after? Well, right now, Steve, you're barely paying bills. You're struggling. You're depressed. This isn't reality, but
Right.
using myself as an example, I'm not going to use you, right? Would you like that to change? Would you like to be flourishing? How would it feel to make 10 times as much money in a month as you do now? What would you do with that money? Draw a picture of what that looks like. What would your vacations look like? And next thing you know, you're inspiring them to think positively and just say, hey, what would stop you from deciding to do something today?
Right.
Right. So I think the answer to your question is knowing what kind of personality you're speaking with and providing them what they need to make a decision, not what you want, but what they need. Right. And meeting
Yeah.
people where they are is really, really important.
It takes me, dude, I'm rereading a book that's been on my shelf since 1992. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just unpack, basically, seek first to understand,
Yep.
then be understood, right? And we forget about that. We think sales is throwing up on people and giving you all the information that I possibly can in the shortest amount. No, people.
Which I've been guilty of, by the way. Like
Oh,
yeah, we all
we
have.
all have. And but when you listen to what Covey talks about, and you learn to ask a good question and really meet people where they are, with really, and I love what you said. You're passionate. You believe you can help people change their lives for the right people. If you're in a conversation, Steve, I'm sure, and you discover that this is not the quote right person for what you provide, it's not that they're bad or wrong. It's just that there's no alignment. And the best thing possible to do is say, hey, Michael, thanks for showing up. This is not a good fit because of this, this, and that. I do know somebody who might be able to help you. I'm happy to make that. Is
That
it?
that's it right there.
Yeah.
Value added. Can you imagine the perceived value that you're sitting in a sales conversation and you can't help the prospect, but you tell them you know somebody who can.
Yeah.
And they say, wow, I didn't have just another mindless 30-minute convo with just another salesperson. I
Right.
met with somebody who has my best intentions or my best hopes in their mind. Now, who knows how that's gonna play out, but I
It'll
met with
come back.
somebody who added some ideas to my world that I can run
Right.
with, as
Right.
opposed to a mindless sales pitch.
It's in short, it's a miracle. It takes me back to, and you probably have seen it most of us, Miracle on 34th Street, one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Sure.
Macy's and Gimbals are fighting it out until Mr. Macy figures out, if I don't have it, I'm going to open the catalog and say, hey, Gimbals has it, or it changed everything, right? It's that concept of I I'm here to serve you.
Right.
And I believe that when I show up to serve you and hear where you are, if I can't help you today with my services, I'm going to give you somebody else, and it's going to come back around. I mean, it's
Right.
because I'm not focused on the sale.
Right.
And
So
I go ahead.
so check this out, Michael. You bring up an interesting connection, right? And I'm going to try to articulate this the best way I can. Sales, especially outbound sales, a good, heart-centered, impact-driven outbound salesperson, think about their daily life. They look for people to impact without knowing if they can.
Yeah.
Right? So if I didn't know you, I could call you and say, hey, Michael, I'm reducing my message, my
Right.
corporate sales message down to a more relatable level. But here's the essence of the message. Michael, I'd like to connect with you to learn what I can do to support you and make your life better. You, a different version of you, might be skeptical and say, why would you do that? We don't know each other. Are you just trying to sell something? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but I believe that what I do is something you need to hear about. I don't know if it's relevant yet. Why don't we take time to figure it out?
Yeah.
And now we have this really interesting back and forth exchange where my job is to overcome your skepticism. Your job is to protect your time. And
Mm-hmm.
the only way anyone wins is if I can get you to realize my intentions and if I can understand yours.
Right.
That's a really interesting dynamic for an outbound salesperson who's impact driven.
Right.
Right? Like, and
Yeah.
you know what it sounds like? If I'm going to reach out to you without knowing if I can help you, it sounds like a faithful decision.
It sure does.
It sounds like action and faith
Yeah.
that eventually it'll work out.
Well, it does. Yeah. I mean, Scripture tells us we walk by faith, not by sight. I mean, there's so
Right.
much baked into that. My son and I. So my son's my eldest son, Caleb. He's my chief operating officer. And he and I work together on marketing and things. And we put together, we create books and things for entrepreneurs, but we created this
Right.
little lead magnet program because not everybody can afford us and all that. And we said, well, let's do this little 26-page lead magnet thing. So we started going out to LinkedIn and doing things. But we took that kind of approach and we would reach out to you and say, hey, Steve, here's something we're doing. It's a kind of a beta test. We don't know if it'll work. It might not be good for you, but you might know somebody. Would you check it out or have a conversation so you understand what it is so that, you might refer us to people. We got more referrals than we did direct clients because people
Sure.
love that approach.
Yeah. Right.
It was like novel to go.
Right.
I mean, it might be right for you. You'd be amazed. You won't be amazed. A lot of people go when I would say, "Hey, Steve, do you know anybody that this might be good for you?" More times than not, you'd go, me? Could I
Me.
do that?"
Yeah.
Well, sure, yeah, we can. But it was the heart behind it to go. We've got something that's really wicked cool that we believe a lot of business owners could benefit from. Stupid cheap. It's in beta. We don't even know if it's going to work. Do you know anybody? People are just they want to help
Yeah.
when you come at it from the right perspective. And I
Right.
think when business owners, when salespeople put on the sales hat, I'm going to sales today. It's a they flip a switch somewhere, right?
Yep. Yep. It's so funny. I think if I were to look at a room filled with salespeople and business owners and say, "Hey, raise your right hand if you intellectually agree that you would sell the way you want to be sold to, or that you should sell the way you want to be sold to," everybody would raise their right hand.
Yep.
And then I would ask another question and say, raise your left hand if you've broken that rule when you were selling. Everyone would raise their left hand. It's like, wait a second, where's the disconnect here?
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what, I really think, I've done some thinking around all of this because I'm a business owner. I do this stuff. Is
Right.
it's fear of failing. It's fear that, oh,
Mm,
I've got a hot one on the I got a call today in 2 hours with a prospect. I
yeah.
need to be ready to go so I can sell them and get a commission today. Well, that's one way to approach it.
Yeah.
Or you
Yeah.
can take Steve's approach to go, I don't even know if we're the right company for you, Steve. I don't even know what you need yet. Can we have a conversation for a few minutes and figure out what you're doing and who I am? And I'm an open book. Just ask me any question you want. And at the
Right.
end of our call, we'll know what the next logical step should be. Is that a fair way to approach this?
Right. Right.
Dude, that changed my life a few months ago when I changed my entire sales presentation to a conversation to go,
Mm,
got no idea.
right. 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 It's a game changer.
It
It's a game
totally,
changer.
you talk
Yeah.
about relieving stress. Peace,
Oh
I,
yeah, detaching from the outcome. Absolutely. Yeah.
there is
Yep.
no, yeah. and yeah, it's crazy. And we did that at a time trying to be as transparent, right, when things were kind of hard for our business. We had a hard year last year, and
Mm,
there were months when it was famine. And to pivot my entire presentation during a famine to go, I at one level, I don't care if you buy or not, I'm here to serve you. It has turned into a feast, right? Things have changed,
right.
and I can't say, well, it's because of this. It's how I show up.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's what, at one level, that's really what you're trying to communicate to people. Now, I have to show up lots of times in lots of ways on a consistent basis. That one to, I think you mentioned the one to many
Yes.
sales approach, right? We've got to be out there exposing people to who we are and what we do.
Right.
And dare I say, brother, when people get exposed to people like us, it's infectious because we are just rare breeds. Not everybody's like us, but people
Yep.
like to hang around with us, and they're like, "Hey, do you know what's his name?" Yeah, well, okay, there you go. Who do you work with? How do you work with them? Let's talk a little bit about that, so people out there listening go, "Okay, I've been around Michael. He's a wacky dude, but this other guy, this Steve."
Well, I hope anybody who would give me a shot would give you a shot too, Michael. So whoever's listening, give Michael a shot. Um, that because you want to work with somebody as open and humble and transparent as this guy. But that said, the people I work with, they're abundance minded. They're prospecting. I'm defining. Or I'm saying their daily activities in a moment. I'll say who they are. But their daily activities are: I wake up and I create my destiny. Right, that's their mentality, right? And they map their actions to it. That's who we're a great fit for, right? Who we work with, they're typically people who sell in organizations, like literally the sales director, the SDR in an enterprise level, a business owner who believes they need to spend a daily effort on prospecting and outreach and doing their best to keep their pipeline full because they know what happens if they don't do that. Those are the
Yeah,
people that we work with, and they're typically growth minded. They're typically open to coaching. Not that we're a coaching service, but there's an element of best practice teaching in
yeah.
what we do. So people who are open minded, do the work, and those are the people who do our best or do their best with our platform.
That's great. That's great. And it's interesting because there's been a movement, I think, and it's been precipitated by A, social media, and then B, all of the social media, dare I say, agencies that have come out of the woodwork because they went through some course to become an agency. Of it
Yeah.
doesn't take any work on your part as a business owner. Pay us, we will do it all, and you just sit back and reap the rewards. I it
What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
Dare I say that's a failed model?
I
Can
agree.
it work? Well, yeah, there are cases where it does work, but it's a failed model. You disconnect, and if as a business owner, if you're not intimately involved in the aspects and getting the feedback from your prospects who buy and your prospects who don't, you're
Nailed it. Nailed it. I think I don't think that done for you solutions are bad in their core. I do think they strip most people of the experiences necessary to learn what they need to do better in the first place. So
mm,
I'll give you an example. before working with us, a prospect had an average of 35 leads scheduled onto their calendar every month. This person shared that not a bit of it closed.
Yeah.
Meeting with us, I advised that she purchase our do-it-yourself option. Why did I advise that? Because I knew that we would get her appointments. I knew that we would get her sales meetings. And I knew that learning to take the licks and educate herself on what could be improved would actually add the most value to her life. We could have taken 8 times the amount in cost per month and done it for her, but she wouldn't have learned anything.
Right.
And she would have fired us for the same exact reason she fired the previous company.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it was your fault. And no, it's her fault because she's not taking ownership and getting in there to, at one level, do the dirty work. But it's not dirty work when you have the right perspective.
Right.
We all should have that perspective of, oh no, what I do is life changing. And I mean, yeah, we charge a good fee, but I can show you how you're going to get 20 times, 30 times that fee over the next year, 2 years.
Right.
This is
Right.
like trading pennies for dollars, baby. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's how we show up in things, and helping business owners or executives, people who are selling, to get the right training and to understand the right approach. It changes everything. I mean,
Right.
becoming better at selling is one of the fastest ways to grow your bottom line.
100%.
If you go from 20% closing ratio to 25% closing ratio, 5%,
Money found. Money found. Boom.
Dude. and it doesn't take that much. It really doesn't.
Right. Great point. Great point, Michael. And that's something that the audience should think about is, right, how do I increase my close ratio by 1%? 1%. You don't need new meetings. You don't need new customers. All you need to do is keep doing what you're doing, the exact amount of meetings you set. How do you increase your close ratio by 1 point, and how does that change your revenue?
Yeah. Do the math. Because if you did if you increased it 1%, oh, I'll be generous, per quarter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's 4% a year. Do the math.
Right.
Now, here's where you've got to really, as you're a listener, here's what you have to figure out. How are you going to do that?
Right.
And that's, I think, where you can come in. Is that right, Steve?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. Both conceptual sales ideas and tactical sales work is a great fit. Working with us, you'll go from wondering why someone isn't getting back to you to that person suddenly replying to your emails and they're in your pipeline again.
Yeah. And that's
or they're gone forever and you're not wasting your valuable time on the wrong people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's be real.
And praise God, I've got a preconditioning series for our services, right? In the last video you get 2 days before you meet with me, pricing and programs. Right. And I tell you in that program, I say, you may not know what it costs to create a book. If this is too much for you, please cancel or call. And when you're ready, then let's reschedule. I don't want to waste my time or yours.
Right. Right.
And people show up and go, dude, I like that. I appreciate the openness and transparency. It's like, dude, I'm not here to bait and
People
switch.
love that. People love that.
People love that. So if you're going to increase your closing ratio, percentage by percentage, and dare I say, it's going to go up a lot faster than you think when you understand what Steve offers, how he goes about this, because it's a mindset, but it's also tactics, and then acceleration and things. And you got so much to offer that we can't get into it today. But I think we probably have scratched the surface enough that they're going, I need a little bit more like a bloodhound, right? Where am I? How do people find out more about Steve Wallace, the sales nerd, and what can you do and how you help them and how they get involved in and all of that? Where would they go?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is my playground. I'm not as active on other platforms. I need to change that. But LinkedIn, look up Steve Wallace on LinkedIn. Chief Sales Nerd is the title I gave myself that you like so much. I post tons of valuable content on there, stuff that if you were to never actually have a conversation with me, it'll improve your pipeline alone with the tips I post on LinkedIn. You can also reach me at steve@maverickapp.io, and maverickapp.io is the website as well.
Awesome. Okay. So, and we haven't even talked about Maverick app. I'm just going to let people go and figure that one out by
That's okay.
themselves. But it's going to be in the show notes. I'm going to have your LinkedIn and maverickapp.io in the show notes, because my audience are business owners, right? They're either out doing business or maybe on the beach. I don't know. But if they've
Hope
listened,
so. Sounds great.
amen on that. I encourage you, number one, just to go back and re-listen to it, because what Steve shared is different than what you probably expected when we first got here. So go back and re-listen to it. Follow him on LinkedIn. Go connect with him out there. I think you'll understand from this. He's probably the kind of guy who's going to connect with you and build conversations and share content, and see how I can help you. Because if this year is going to be a better year and next year is going to be even better than that, it's going to come because you are better at this thing we call selling, which is really understanding and influencing others. And when you approach it from a heart-centric way that Steve's talking about, it honestly is a game changer, Steve. I know it from personal experience. You know it. We want other people to know it. Dude, thank you. Thank you thanks for being here and being my guest. But thanks for doing what you do with the integrity, the passion, the perspective that you bring to it. It is so very refreshing, brother.
Thank you, Michael. This is a great show. I love it when it's more of a conversation than anything else. And can't wait to learn how to support you further.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for listening to Experts Speak, and check out the show notes for Steve Wallace and the Sales Nerd, and it's going to be great. So make sure to tune in again next week for another phenomenal episode of Experts Speak. Take care. God bless.